Hey, and welcome back to episode 70 of the number one podcast in the world, the Cellarcast. I'm going to keep it up. If I say it enough times, it's going to be true. I wanted to kick off this episode just with a quick acknowledgement. I put out the last video on DOS horror, technically the second video I've made on the topic. Done inordinately well. I don't know why, but if you came over to listening to this podcast from discovering that video, because I guess it just got really picked up instantly in the algorithm, then hello. Welcome. This is the number one podcast in the world. So that's been pretty cool. I always like reading comments. Nice comments. You know? Even the critical ones are usually pretty nice, which is nice in the sense that it's reasonable. It feels like a constructive criticism. It isn't just I hate you kind of thing. I don't really have that video. I was really stressing over that, so I didn't have a lot of time to do anything else. So no funny stories from the week. My whole week was pretty much just making that video. As well, no comments to speak of. No questions to speak of. So kind of just want to get the ball rolling. This might just be a shorter episode. Who knows? Although it might not be. We got some stuff on the plate. I wanted to kick this off with a couple topics. Actually, most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about this week is stuff that I wanted to talk about last week, but we just never ended up getting to it because Prox and I were dicking around talking about Kanye West meat. So we're going to be launching off with you can already hear it. That's right, baby. That's right, it's the Blizzard block. It's coming back. I didn't think it would be happening again. I didn't think that I thought we'd seen the last of it, but no. We actually have more Blizzard news. That's right. This one comes courtesy of us, specifically news about their horrible fucking practices. Activision Blizzard, this one comes from Eurogamer, courtesy of Victoria Kennedy. Activision Blizzard hit with yet another sexual harassment lawsuit, which includes the demands within include the removal of Bobby Kotick as CEO. Holy cannoli. So the article itself, the story is quite, well, maybe compared to what's already happened, it might feel like just another one of these. And it really, I'm covering this just because, one, I don't want to ever let Blizzard forget what happened, and I want people to remember that this is still happening and it's still a thing. Two, actually, yeah, that was pretty much it. So, the specific details of the case are I wish that this went into a little more detail. I looked for some other articles on this, and I couldn't quite find any more, any more information than what was in this one, this Eurogamer article. Excuse me. So essentially what happened here is that the the suer, is that the prosecution, I guess? Oh god, I'm so bad with this stuff. Going by Jane Doe, basically met a manager at Blizzard named Miguel Vega in 2009 or 2010 at a game night. I'm assuming some kind of a company event. And then they had kind of a little bit of a thing going on online. She sent her some pictures, which she now regrets. And then by 2011, they had kind of ended that relationship because she met a guy who would later become her husband. So you would think that would just be where you drop it. Now, having a work relationship is a little dicey, especially with someone who's in managerial position. That's not like, okay, you probably don't want that happening as a company. But it did not end there. You'd think that maybe like this Vega guy would try to make it let's just leave it behind us. Might not look too great. Nope. He would the filing goes on to say that Vega would repeatedly make inappropriate advances towards Doe at work, which included groping, attempting to kiss her, and making comments about oral sex, masturbation, and orgasms. In addition to this, Vega would allegedly find ways to diminish Doe's work and even threatened to use the aforementioned compromising pictures as a form of blackmail to make her leave her husband, which is, one, insane. Like, what the fuck? Like, to even think that was like a threat. That, like, what the fuck? Like, as blackmail. Like, that's so crazy. Like, I'm thinking of that as like a threat. Like, I'm going to send your husband pictures, like nude pictures you sent me from before you two even met. Like, what kind of a... like, if I was... I'd imagine if someone, like, threatened me like that, I just... like, what the fuck? Who cares? If I just explained it to my partner. Like, hey, I had this thing with a guy from work. He's a creepy asshole weirdo. You've probably already talked to your husband about what a fucking weirdo this guy is. But so like this isn't critiquing her. It's more just like, what kind of a person would think that was even a viable threat? Not even that he's stupid. I mean, it is stupid, but like, what weird fucking ideas do you have about, like, I don't know, like people's, like, I don't know, man. It reeks of strange to me. Now this he should have gotten fired when he tried to grope her, assuming that she filed a complaint. The filing reads, all of Mr. Vega's sexual advances upon Miss Doe were unwelcomed. After each time she rejected him, he'd assure her that, quote, and this is where it gets creepy, one day it'll happen, or one day you'll give in. Ugh. He said, maybe I'll blackmail you with those pictures I have to get you to leave your husband so you can come to stay with me. Ugh. Like, ugh. I want to take a shower. I want to take a shower after that. What the fuck? He was fired in 2021. Now this article, this is the information I wanted to know, because as this article reads, it says he was fired from his position in 2021 after Doe reported details of Vega's actions to management. However, the filing claims the company took too long to act, and Doe has suffered both physical and mental pain, humiliation, and loss of enjoyment of life due to Vega's actions and Activision Blizzard's slow response. Now, this is weird to me because it says he was... what the missing piece for me is the time frame of, well, when did she file a complaint? Because obviously everyone wants to jump on the Blizzard sucks bandwagon. And I do too. I want to fucking ream them for all the awful shit they've done. But before, I have to take this on a case-by-case basis. And it's like, well, I just like to know the timeline. Like, has she been filing complaints? Like, has she filed multiple ones? Has she just filed one, like, years ago? I mean, if still, that's still, like, not acceptable. Or did she just file one? Because they go on to say, Activision Blizzard put out a little PR statement that when the plaintiff reported her concerns to HR, we immediately opened an investigation, and Mr. Vega was terminated within 10 days. So they were, if if what they're saying is true, which I don't even necessarily believe, within 10 days, I mean less than 2 weeks, he was gone. That doesn't seem too unreasonable, assuming that was the only complaint she filed. And again, the details are not here. I guess it'll come out in the details of the lawsuit, or in the proceedings of the lawsuit, how many she filed and when. Because if she's been filing them for years and nothing's been done about it, I mean, yeah, that's a huge problem. That's a huge issue. And I wouldn't put it past Blizzard to just ignore that shit, because they were actively promoting that kind of thing for years. Yeah, so I am not saying that anyone necessarily is like wrong here, just because that's the one detail that's like, oh, I would like to know that, because hey, in the off chance that she only ever filed one lawsuit in the 10 years that this was going on, sorry, not lawsuit, filed one complaint in the 10 years that this was going on, and then, you know, they almost immediately responded to it, like within 2 weeks. Like, I don't know. I mean, I can't really call their bluff on that. The fact that she's suing over it suggests that that's not the whole. That's not what happened, and there was more knowledge from them. Maybe probably even including multiple HR reports from over the years. But hey, I just don't know. But I wanted to cover it just because it is a big ass lawsuit. If this was just accusations, I probably wouldn't cover it. But or if this was just someone coming out on Twitter or something, I probably wouldn't cover it. But I think the fact that it's a going to court is intriguing, and I'd almost be curious to know if it's going to get piled into a different class action lawsuit from someone else. I think that might be different depending on who's getting sued and what kind of lawsuits they are, but yeah, I felt it was worth bringing up to, I don't know, keep current on this particular. I mean, it's rare that you see a workplace get this bad and exposed in such a public way. So that's why I like to keep this segment, you know, in the back of my pocket for when something like this happens. But other than that, and the other kind of disappointing thing about the article is that it doesn't include. I mean, the byline says it demands include the removal of Bobby Kotick as CEO. So, okay, interesting. Not what I was expecting. Or what am I saying? Not what I was expecting. Not what I. Not everything I would have liked to know about the case, but hey, maybe it'll come out. Maybe it'll come out later. So, and yes, Bobby Kotick should not be CEO. God damn. Second story I wanted to talk about is kind of a follow-up to a story I talked about a little while ago that I've now, again, haven't seen anyone talk about this shit except for me. Nintendo, this one comes courtesy of Polygon via Nicole Carpenter. Nintendo and former QA worker settle labor dispute. So if you recall, a couple weeks ago I talked about a National Labor Relations Board complaint that was filed by a former Nintendo of America QA worker. This was the person. Ooh. I thought I had to burp for a second. I didn't. This was the person who, to refresh your memory, they were working contracted under Aston Carter, which the apparently god-awful contracting company to work for. As a QA tester for Nintendo, they'd been working there for years. There's the burp. And they had a meeting, I believe an online meeting with Doug Bowser. And during the meeting, this person, Mackenzie Clifton, that was their name, asked a pretty innocent question, which was something along the lines of, what does Nintendo of America think about the current efforts or the current events or developments for QA testers unionizing? But it was a very non-confrontational question that was just, what do you think about this thing that's happening? Not like, are you very neutrally phrased question. What's your statement on that? I believe it was not answered, and then they were fired later, and like a few weeks later. The official reasoning for them being fired, because they were like, what the fuck? What did I do? The official reasoning for them being fired was, I think, like breaking NDA, and the reasoning was, the evidence for this was that they had made a tweet saying, got into work today, and someone deleted all the textures in the current build of the game that I'm testing. Now everything is red. Isn't that's it was just a funny little, hey, this thing happened at work. Absolutely no details, unless the NDA was so incredibly restrictive that you can't even say that you test games, kind of thing. Like, you test games? Like, that's fucking ridiculous. I doubt that would have been actually covered by the NDA. So they were like, that's bullshit. The only other thing, because I think that, yeah, they were pulled aside later on, and someone's just like, hey, we really didn't like the question you asked today. It was kind of a downer question. I'm like, what the fuck? So then they get fired, and they connected the dots, let's say. So they file a complaint with the NLRB, and now finally they have actually reached a settlement. Aston Carter will take liability for the NLRB charge and pay the former QA worker $25,910 in back pay, damages, and interest, according to the settlement documents obtained by Polygon. Additionally, Nintendo must post a notice, both in email and on-site at its office, informing its QA workers of their rights under the National Labor Relations Act. The notice must be posted for 60 consecutive days. That's just a shame thing. Yeah, so they asked for a letter of apology in the initial complaint. They just wanted an apology from Doug Bowser. Nintendo initially offered Clifton the opportunity to speak with HR. On Wednesday, the two sides seemed to reach an agreement. This is from the 13th, by the way, of this month. Their bilateral settlement agreement, which means both parties must uphold their end of the deal, was filed on Wednesday with the NLRB. Yada yada, and then just update. A Nintendo spokesperson told Polygon it is thankful a settlement was reached. The full statement is as follows. And it's just a PR statement. And there's a full, actually, you can, on this article, there's a full PDF of the settlement, which is interesting. So you can go read that if you really care, if you're interested. Yeah, no one's really talking about this, but yeah, they got taken to task. You know, $25,910. I don't know what their living expenses are like, but that's probably not too bad. It's probably a decent amount of money to get out of the lawsuit. Especially since it seemed like it happened fairly fast. So, if anything, I'm just kind of glad that a settlement was reached. I'm hoping that this was positive for Clifton, and that I don't know what if any change this will have on how things are done. But at least in this micro example of someone getting kind of fucked around with, it seems like they at least got something back. So, just a little update. Because I didn't hear anyone talking about this story. And... excuse me. So now, I'm going to get into the real meat of what's been happening over the last couple days. And that's something that a lot of people have been talking about. This story took a topic not a lot of people are into, and kind of broke it into the mainstream, which is, of course, the Bayonetta 3 Helena Taylor drama. So, if you really have not heard of this, it's been a pretty big ongoing story. Let me just get a fucking... see if I can get like an article or something. I was just gonna mention this off the top of the dome, but it wouldn't hurt to have something up to reference. So essentially, Bayonetta 3 is coming out, and one of the things that that people noticed was, hey, Bayonetta has a new voice actress. The voice actress for Bayonetta was always Helena Taylor, a lady named Helena Taylor, British woman, background in theater. And what's interesting to me, actually, is that Bayonetta 1 had no Japanese dub. It was just in English, which I think is really interesting. So people were kind of like a little confused, a little upset that she didn't get the role back, but that she wasn't recast, or that the character was recast, because Helena Taylor is such an iconic depiction of that character. Platinum put out an official statement around the time that happened, just saying that their schedules didn't match up. Well, Helena Taylor herself, just a couple weeks away from the game's release, came out and made a series of videos on Twitter telling her side of the story, apparently breaking NDA. But she didn't care. And what she revealed was a lot more interesting. According to her, she said that Platinum offered her $4,000. She said a total of $4,000 for the whole game. And mind you, this is a game that's going to have, I think, 3 characters that would all be voiced by her. Would have all been voiced by her, because there's like 3 Bayonettas. So $4,000 for that much voice work is pretty fucking stiff. That's a really shitty deal. I saw various different sources that had, I'm sure, these numbers change depending on production and time and, what's going on. I'm sure there's a bunch of different factors to it. But I did hear at least one person say that an extra on a TV show can make more than that for like 2 hours of work. So, like, I don't know how true that is. And again, depending on the show or the union or whatever they're part of, might be different. So, actually, the story was that the story as she told it was that $4,000 was actually not the initial offer. The initial offer was actually lower. And then she wrote a letter to Hideki Kamiya, vice president of Platinum, creator and producer of the Bayonetta series. Excuse me. And asked him for a higher salary, or for a higher pay. And he said $4,000. So she was making this, and she asked fans to boycott the game. That was what was really controversial, I think. Or one of the things that I felt made it more controversial was asking people not to give their money to the game. Now, this was a very odd story, even initially, because there were things that just with her account felt strange. So number one, you got to think. So the story was, as I first heard it, was Nintendo didn't want to pay her. That's not true. that doesn't really check out, and it doesn't check out because Well, number one, Nintendo does not do the casting. Platinum does the casting. Nintendo is the publisher of the game, so they are going to put money down for, the game's budget, but they do not necessarily decide who gets what payment. This is really Platinum's offer to her. Second of all, so the reason that this doesn't make sense for being like a money thing, like they didn't want to pay her, is that they replaced her with Jennifer Hale, who, if you don't know, is Shepard from Mass Effect. Fem Shep from Mass Effect. She's like a fucking powerhouse voice actor. Let's just look up some of her other roles. Because again, I'm not even a fucking voice actor guy, so. Jennifer Hale, she played, if you just look her up, she's played a billion fucking roles. Baldur's Gate, Mass Effect, Metal Gear Solid, Bioshock Infinite, Metroid Prime, Overwatch, Star Wars KOTOR. And not minor roles either. She's Ash in Overwatch. She's, let's see. Just show me the Hale roles. Just show me the. She's a voice actress. So she's done a billion fucking things. She's Chronica in MK11. She's done a Bastilla. Oh, she's Bastilla? That's the Bastilla Shan. That's the, oh my god, KOTOR. That's that Jedi girl, right? Oh, I fucking hate her. Jesus, I hate that character. But yeah, she's played a bunch of roles. She's a big name voice actress. So there is no chance in hell that Jennifer Hale is getting paid $4,000. They didn't replace Helena Taylor with some scab who's going to do the work for half the price off the street. No, they replaced her with like a big name, a comparably much bigger name. So the pay doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that they were being stingy. So then you go, oh, is it because she was in a union? That doesn't really hold up because every other voice actor in the game is part of the same union. Same union as Helena Taylor, SAG-AFTRA. And Jennifer Hale might even be, I think so. The point is that it also wasn't a union thing. So that wasn't an issue. So you're like, what other reason would they have for not working with her, right? Like, that's weird. Like, because that's ultimately what this comes down to. Because that offering her $4,000 flat, that's like a spiteful thing. That's like, you just want her out, right? That is the obvious reading of that, is that they just didn't want to work with her, and so they gave her an insultingly low offer so that she would, get out and they could replace her. Why would you want to replace her? She's an iconic part of the series, and she's probably not going to ask for as much as Jennifer Hale. So already on day one, I was seeing things like something had to have happened. Something must have happened behind the scenes from one party to the other that soured their relationship in some way. We don't know. I'm actually glad that I didn't talk about this last week, because this was definitely a situation that I think it was good to wait a week or something to talk about, because it's one of those things where something is going to come out. There's going to be a response. I go, but whenever a major news event happens, I call it the 48-hour rule. Actually, I ripped this off from my dad, which is just, the 48-hour rule is pretty simple. It's just that you wait 48 hours after the initial story breaks, because that's enough time for someone to make the statement, for people to have an initial reaction plus digging around to investigate that statement. Then, for anyone that they made the statement about to write up some kind of a response, to make some kind of a response. So you get a much bigger... if you just wait 48 hours, I will guarantee you in most cases you will get a much better idea of what actually happened than just jumping straight to what whatever your first knee-jerk reaction is. But hey, you know, there's a rant in here about social media wanting people, incentivizing people to just have the hottest, most inflammatory take as soon as possible so they can get fleeting internet fame or something like that. But yeah. So the initial fallout of this, I was like, okay, maybe it's good to wait off. Let me wait and see what happens. What did not help Platinum's case is that Hideki Kamiya had a very bad reaction to this. So Kamiya's always had this kind of character, quote unquote, that he's played on Twitter of he just blocks everyone and he's a big internet jerk tough guy, right? And it's most people think it's kind of amusing, it's kind of funny. Oh, he blocks everyone. That's kind of funny. He has a block list longer than the freaking Bible at this point. And because he has these rules, right? He has these rules for what you can and can't. He doesn't want you to tweet at him in any language that's not Japanese. Which, okay, why do you tweet in English then? All right. He's always had this kind of like, he would really come off like a dick if people didn't like the games he was making. But for now, it's tentatively all fine and dandy until you have a big controversy and people are asking you, hey, what the fuck? And then when you keep that shtick up, oh, maybe it wasn't a shtick. Maybe he kind of is a big dick and he's being an asshole. Maybe that was for real. Because he started, obviously, people start tweeting at him saying, what is this? Like, what the fuck happened? What's going on? Why did you do that? Because a lot of people took her story at face value and said, what the heck? And he got really annoyed and started blocking everyone. And for some reason, his account got suspended and then removed and then reinstated. I don't know what that was about. It happened over like 24 hours. Really weird. Like, was it because he was blocking a bunch of people? Was it because, like, what happened? Was it just people false reporting him, maybe? No clue, but he's back now. I wonder what he's tweeted recently. Excuse me. What was his most recent tweets? Mina, Ohio. He just said good morning, everyone. Yeah, he hasn't said very much. Next. So there was another interesting development in this. That was where it was. It was, oh my god, Kamiya's the villain. Everyone support Helena Taylor. And then there was an interesting wrinkle to the story. Not so much a wrinkle as a development. So a story breaks from a couple different news sources. Specifically Bloomberg, actually. So someone from Platinum anonymously sent Bloomberg some kind of contract statements or documents that revealed what the actual negotiation process was between Helena Taylor and Platinum Games. And it was, let's say, not exactly what Taylor claimed it was. She said they offered me a insultingly low sum, and then they raised it to $4,000 for the whole game. According to these documents, which not public, not sourced, because that's, it was they didn't anonymously send them. They reached out, but they were kept anonymous by the article. Because, yeah, obviously, you can't just go leaking private company documents. So, according to these documents, Taylor actually, their initial offer was $3,000 to $4,000 per session for, and the wording on this I found very specific, at least 5 sessions. At least 5 sessions. $3,000 to $4,000 per session for at least 5 sessions. So, if you're going to lowball that and just say 5 sessions at $3,000, that's $15,000. Already over 3 times what she claimed it was. If you're going to highball it and say 4,000 for 5 sessions, minimum, $20,000. So if she got $4,000, which I don't think is unreasonable, that she could have negotiated for $4,000, or an extra $1,000 per session, or the high end of that, seeing as she is playing 3 characters, $20,000 at minimum, which is pretty different from $4,000. Pretty different statements. Taylor, kind of important, kind of an important distinction, actually. And now people will argue about whether or not that's an appropriate amount of money. I'm not a voice actor. I don't know what her personal finances are. I don't know the ins and outs of the sales of the series. So I am not in a position where I can really make a statement on whether or not $20,000 for that amount of work is reasonable for being a union worker and for her stature and for her importance to the series. I don't know. So I'm not in a position to make any kind of statement or judgment of that. But what I can say is that is a very different story from a flat $4,000 fee. And these were independently confirmed to be legitimate by Bloomberg, by multiple other people who saw the documents, including someone like Jason Schreier. I know people don't like Jason Schreier for this or that reason. I saw some dumb arguments like, he blocks people who don't agree with him. It's like, yeah, it's fucking dumb that he blocks people who have mild disagreements with him about video games. But the actual reporting work that he does, I think has been really exemplary of what should be done more in this industry. People just don't want to fucking like him, so they just jump to I don't know. They take one thing and use it to discredit something totally unrelated. I think it's stupid. He also confirmed that they were true. These documents were real. So unless Bloomberg's wrong, unless he's wrong, unless everyone else who actually looked at the documents were wrong, the situation is a lot stranger. The fact that it's not even a question. She lied, right? She straight up lied about what it was. And if she didn't lie, and if you want to kind of bend her words into saying, well, when she said 4,000, they thought I was worth $4,000. What she actually meant was $4,000 for a minimum for per session for at least 5 sessions. If you want to claim that's what everyone read into, I mean, go ahead. I think she lied. I read that as an intentional bending of the truth to make it look like they really stiffed her on the money. Like they really did some kind of a thing to her. There were some other weird parts to her videos, namely knowing what we know now, there's a bit where she kind of some people called it throwing Jennifer Hale under the bus. She says something to the effect of like, they can have some new girl stroll in and take the role that I created. And it's like, you know, when the story was still that they offered you $4,000, maybe that sounded a little more justified. Now it sounds kind of a little strange, a little weird and bitter coming from you, Helena. That you would just, to refer to Jennifer Hale, this like really renowned voice actress, as just some new girl coming in and taking my role, that fucking bitch. Very weird, and it lends like a weird kind of like emotionally charged element to it that, I don't know, changes the dynamic a little bit. Another thing that came from, oh goodness, I don't remember who. It was a very well-known like mainstream voice actor who basically made a tweet thread or something on Reddit where he basically said that when you're in this business and you are taking over a role from someone, like there's a sequel and it's a character who has like an established voice actor, and you're taking over the role from them, it is due diligence, supposedly. It's according to him, it's your due diligence to reach out to that person and let them know and maybe like ask them how they feel about it. Because, you know, this unfortunately happens all the time. People get replaced for whatever reason. But if you have some kind of class and you're a professional, you will go and reach out and in his words, do your due diligence. Because you want to keep good relationships. You don't want to be the bad guy. You just want to fucking roll, you know? And according to him, Jennifer Hale is I believe he knows her personally, and said that she 100% always does that. She will always do that if she's taking over someone else's role. She'll always check in with them to make sure that there's no bad blood or anything between them. So the fact that Taylor is claiming this like insult to her, and Hale still took the role and never made any kind of statement or anything, is weird. It's really weird. The fact that she's lying casts a lot of doubt on her whole story. There's also this strange part where she just quotes the Bible for like an entire video, and it's like a whole minute. I don't know. I got a weird vibe out of that bit. I don't know if anyone else did, but I thought it was strange, but I kind of brushed it off. As just that's just her thing, but adding some kind of like weird biblical thing to it was odd. Platinum has now made a statement. They've issued an official statement. It reads on Twitter, "We at Platinum Games offer our sincerest appreciation to everyone who has contributed to creating the Bayonetta series over the years, as well as the community that has served as its foundation. We give our full support to Jennifer Hale as the new Bayonetta and align with everything in her statement." I will check out Jennifer Hale. Did Jennifer Hale make a statement? We'll find this. We'll discover this all ourselves. We're going to discover it live. "We ask people to please refrain from any further comments that would disrespect Jennifer or any of the other contributors to the series." Hale's statement. Here it is. Okay. About Bayonetta 3. So, Hale made this statement. Let's read it. "With regards to Bayonetta 3, as a longtime member of the voice acting community, I support every actor's right to be paid well and have advocated consistently for this for years. Anyone who knows me or has followed my career will know that I have great respect for my peers and that I am an advocate for all members of the community. I am under an NDA and am not at liberty to speak regarding this situation. My reputation speaks for itself. I sincerely ask that everyone keep in mind that this game has been created by an entire team of hardworking, dedicated people, and I hope everyone will keep an open mind about what they've created. Finally, I hope that everyone involved may resolve their differences in an amicable and respectful way. With love and respect to you all, Jennifer Hale. So, obviously she's under NDA. She can't say anything specifically right now. Oh, I completely forgot. Actually, to mention that part of that Bloomberg article, part of those documents that came out, was not just that, because that was their initial offer, was the 3,000 to 4,000 for minimum 5 sessions per session for minimum 5 sessions, at least 5 sessions. What I didn't mention was that it also included the details of the negotiation, because Taylor came back and she said that that wasn't enough. She wanted what they claimed was a 6-figure salary. So a 6-figure salary and residuals. Now again, I am not a voice actor. I'm not in the business. I have no real opinion on the size. I can't really size up whether or not that's reasonable. I can say that in her video, the fact where she said that the Bayonetta series, it felt like she was slightly exaggerating the amount of money the Bayonetta series had made. Just a little bit, about like how many millions of dollars it was worth. It's like, yeah, but Platinum's kind of a dinky shit little company. Yeah. She thought she needed she deserved a 6-figure salary plus residuals. So residuals meaning that she's going to get a portion of the sales. I don't know how reasonable that is, but Platinum did not think that it was reasonable. So what I'm curious about is that when she says she wrote a letter to Hideki Kamiya, can she share that letter? I mean, she wrote it. That shouldn't be under NDA. Can she just share that letter and what he replied with? Because as far as I know, as far as anyone knows, again, she could have just made that up. She or again bent the like that could have been another bending of the truth of like when they sent back that she didn't that they didn't think that they didn't want to give her that much. So yeah, let's just see. I don't think there's anything I missed from this. Oh yeah, so this article pretty much just runs down the whole thing, just making sure I didn't miss anything. It's a complicated situation because there's a lot that has not been said. Oh yeah, here's what she said. Taylor's claimed that the Bayonetta series has brought in $450 million in revenue, which is probably just wrong. Probably just straight up incorrect. Yeah. So again, weird. So maybe that's just her not being... That could also be a lie, because again, you lied once. Did you go lie again? Or it could just be her not knowing. You really can't tell at this point, because she's already crossed the line of veering into malice, essentially. Yeah, I mean, the fact that she couldn't really provide any evidence for anything she said, I mean, she's already breaking NDA. The fact that she can't give any kind of proof of, like, the documents or anything like that is really fucking suspicious. So, and then, I don't know, the idea of, like, boycotting, the boycott thing might have been, I saw it as, like, potentially justified at the time, because she because I'm not opposed to the idea that someone might like say something inflammatory to get people talking. That maybe she assumed that people weren't going to care that much about it unless she called for something kind of dramatic, like a boycott. And so she was using that as a almost marketing thing, or something, a word of mouth. Start some kind of a movement. Hashtag boycott Bayonetta 3 or something like that. But excuse me. Now it just, everything comes off super weird and odd in her initial videos, her accusations. And it's a shame because this is a decent, it provides a ground for a decent conversation to have, which is that voice actors are very underpaid and underutilized, or under recognized. Acting is an incredibly difficult job in terms of like having steady employment. And voice actors even more so, because the truth is that most people don't even really care about like voice actors. There's this kind of thing that like, oh, in Japan celebrities are voice actors. Voice actors are like celebrities. That's kind of true. It's more true than it is here, but really a lot of that is there's a lot more big names in Japan, and there's a lot of people who are like just voice acting veterans who are, it's a slightly more of a thing. But for just like even a voice actor with like a decent portfolio, yeah, it's pretty much the same as like the America. It's not some like voice actor paradise or like Hollywood or something like that. It's just slightly better if you have like a veteran status, essentially. Because there was recently a thing with like the voice actor for Mob Psycho 100 was passed up to reprise the role for the English voice actor. Passed up to reprise the role for season 3 of the show. Really unfortunate. And I think that was a case where that was actually more likely that it was the fact that he was in a union. 'Cause fucking Crunchyroll. And this kind of thing happens all the time, really. Voice actors are seen as very disposable. They don't have much of a face, kind of like actors do. That might be part of it. I think maybe we just don't see voice actors with the same kind of empathy, perhaps, that we get with traditional live action actors, just because we don't have the face and the physical aspect to kind of recognize them by. Funny enough, I was playing more New Vegas, right? Fucking Liam O'Brien is everywhere in that game. That dude he voices like 100 characters. It's ridiculous. It's to the point where I took like a side quest, and the character I took a side quest from Liam O'Brien, and the side quest requires me to go talk to a guy standing 20 feet away who is also Liam O'Brien. I'm like, what the fuck? I was in a side quest where I'm having a conversation, or I'm listening to a conversation between Liam O'Brien and Liam O'Brien. And I'm like, what the... There's no... What? How... Do you just voice everyone in this game? He has a very recognizable, like, kind of intensity in his voice. I'm Akihiko. Nice to meet you. That's what he sounds like. And even when he's putting on a voice, right, he still has that just quality in his performance that it's in every single voice he does. So yeah, the Bayonetta 3 situation, it's unfortunate. It speaks, I think, very poorly of Helena Taylor and makes her come out really shady looking. Kamiya's response is, see, a lot of people messed up. First of all, Helena Taylor fucked up by lying. I don't even know, like, what was her intentions behind doing that? Like, did she want to maybe gain some notoriety? Because here's the thing, is that I feel like now her reputation in the voice acting industry is fucking burned. She said she wanted to go more into theater, but like even then, like fucking like if you're looking at casting, are you really gonna like, you're gonna look at her and you're like, oh, the situation was she demanded 6 figures, and when we said we couldn't give her that, she made like a public stink about it and lied and told about how much we offered her, and then tried to get people to boycott this thing she was gonna be in. Ugh, no, we're fucking passing you up. We're not even gonna look at you for this role. That's what I'd do if I was a casting coach or casting director. I don't know if that applies to theater, if those worlds are, if they have any kind of crossover where that news would get there, but yeah, huge reputational damage. And like, for what? Like, what did you get out of this? What did she didn't even ask for people to like donate to her or anything. It was just that's why it seemed so strange. It was like, well, what does she get out of this? That was one of the things that was in her favor when this all started, was, well, what does she get out of it? She's breaking NDA. She's not asking for money or anything. She's just supposedly telling the truth about what happened because she was incensed about it. She took a huge amount of issue with the way that she was treated, and she wanted to speak out on, like, for, a moral reason. And then all this comes out, and it's like, what was the purpose? What was the purpose of all this? I saw some, like, weird things where people were like, because people on the internet, they love to pick one thing that you said from, like, from years ago, and I don't know, just bad behavior. Like, she said some vaguely kind of like turf adjacent things 3 years ago, which was definitely like kind of eyebrow raising, like, oh, what did you mean by that? And people were instantly, before it came out that she lied about it, people were using that. I saw some people using that as like a thing to say, like, actually, fuck her. She doesn't deserve to get paid because she doesn't like trans people. I'm gonna buy the game against what she wants. Just like, fucking, okay. I mean, I guess that's your choice, but I don't know, this like jump to like, hey, you said something you say you had a bad opinion sort of like kind of 3 years ago. I don't care that you were mistreated, you deserved that. I don't know, I feel like it's very short-sighted moralizing. And then Kamiya's response was just terrible, to just fucking go on a incredibly unprofessional, like, if there's any time to drop the act, it's now, unless it's not an act, which it might not be. He really just should not have said anything. Just maybe put down Twitter for a little while. You're the VP of the company. Excuse me. Work with your marketing. Work with your PR people. Like just don't make yourself look bad. Oh my god, I'm sure the PR department was tearing their fucking hair out while he was doing that. Yeah, bad responses and bad behavior from pretty much everyone. I don't think Platinum themselves was super in the wrong here, but on an individual level, I think that a lot of this did not have to happen. This did not have to happen in many ways. This was, the info about her. They were very amicable about what happened when they put out that initial statement about how, oh, scheduling conflicts, it didn't work out. That's a very amicable way to kind of just move on, right? Like, we're not gonna out you for maybe being a little fucking asking for a little much, and yeah, having a little bit of an ego. Someone in theater being a bit of a diva? Who would have guessed? Yeah, I don't know if I have really any more thoughts about it besides, yeah. R.A.P. Bozo? So, yeah, pretty much. That's what I have to say on it. Let's see. I want to talk for a little bit longer. Just honestly, just had some stuff I wanted to recommend. First of all, I finished this book a little while ago, but fuck it, I wanted to recommend it. I was reading a Warhammer 40k book, of course it is, called Silent Hunters by, oh goodness, what's his name? It's on my shelf back there. Eduardo something. Silent Hunters. Eduardo Albert, or Edorado. That's how Google says his name. It's not what it's not what my book says. Really? Eduardo. I don't know what. Yeah, Eduardo. It's a weird spelling. Not a spelling I'm not familiar with. Edoardo. Albert. Eduardo. Right? I don't even trust the Google one now. I'm gonna go look at the fucking Goodreads. Yeah, Eduardo Albert. Okay, anyway. Silent Hunters by Eduardo Albert. I really liked this book. It's about the Carcharodons. So, if you don't know, the Carcharodons are like a fan favorite kind of less officially represented Space Marines chapter. They are space sharks. They basically happened because they exist because like 20 years ago, someone in like at Games Workshop wrote down like 2 paragraphs of lore saying, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a Space Marine chapter, but they were like shark guys? Hell yeah. So they've always just they had like zero official acknowledgement for years, but they were always kind of popular in their own little part of the community because they're fucking space sharks. They have like gray skin and black eyes, and they're on these like derelict ships that they just kind of like take and they float around on the very outskirts of the galaxy in like the void where there's no stars. They have this whole kind of like isolated sort of religious adherence to darkness and silence, and like meditation, and their ships they're all like sopping wet for some reason in the middle of space, with like barnacles growing on the walls and just dark and dim vessels. Super cool, super interesting, cool aesthetic and kind of vibe that they have going on. And recently they've been getting a little bit of love from the Black Library, which is the official 40k books, like their whole circuit of writers. So one of these is one that I recently read through called Silent Hunters. It's really good. It's basically the premise, without really spoiling anything, is the premise is that there was an artifact that was very sacred to the Carcharodons called the Void Glass that was stolen from them like 10,000 years prior, or just some inordinate amount of time ago, unfathomably long ago, they had this stolen from them. And a chaplain of the Carcharodons, named Tangata Manu, has led this little party of four other Space Marine Carcharodons, in this like centuries-long hunt for it's literally, they call themselves the Hunt, to recover the artifact. So basically, the opening is, I'm just gonna the basic rundown of this. Isn't really a spoiler unless you really don't want to know absolutely anything about it, because this is literally like the first thing that happens in the book. There's a sequence where they finally recover the Void Glass, or they find the location. It's on this ocean planet, and they come out of the depths as the fog is rolling in, and they start picking off the members of this kind of like chaos infested small little human military kind of camp or fortress, basically, that's set up on this patch of land sticking out of the ocean. They're picking them off one by one. It's framed as almost like a horror scene of just these things, the mist rolling over and people just disappearing. They finally find like the storehouse that the glass is being kept in. They open it up and it's gone. And on the wall there is markings that are reminiscent of a specific cabal of the Drukhari, who are basically the evil dark elves of 40k. They're space dark elves. So one of their cabals, which is kind of like their clans, has stolen the Void Glass from this little chaos group. So they've failed at the very last. Like, they have like 5 minutes. They were 5 minutes too late to catch it, basically. And the reason they were 5 minutes too late is that Tangata Manu wanted to plant these charges underwater that would basically go off on a timer, and it would basically cause like a ripple effect that would cause a big tidal wave to just wash away the entire encampment. And in his mind, he's just thinking like, fuck, if I just hadn't done that, if we just gone straight to recover it, we could have easily had enough time to get it. But fuck, I was stupid. I was too cautious. I didn't go for it. He's kind of beating himself up over it. And he's basically called before the council of the Carcharodons, and they're like, "Are you sure that what the fuck happened? Basically, what happened? You've been on this journey for years. You're taking up resources. It takes place in the 9th edition era of 40k. So big ass hole in the galaxy that demons are spilling out of constantly is a thing that's actively happening. And they're like, hey, there's demons coming out of the galaxy, and you're like, what the fuck? You're going on a scavenger hunt? What happened? Why'd you fail this time? And he just owns up to it, and he says, I fucked up. I take responsibility. And they're like, okay, we're going to kill you. We're going to execute you. And he goes, wait, I understand, but I would like to work out a deal. I think you can execute me. I fully accept that's something. I fully accept that punishment. But if we could negotiate when you execute me, and just give me a little more time. And they're like, why should we do that? And he's like, because I think that I have a new plan, that I think I can get the Void Glass back from the Drukhari. And they're like, okay. And basically he's found, there's like a slave they have on their ship who has had a secret child. They're not allowed to have children. this slave woman who said it had a secret child. They're not allowed to have any kids because resources are really scarce. So having an extra mouth to feed is a big no-no. It's like instant execution for them as punishment. Because you can't be fucking doing that. We're out in the void. We're in the void. And he discovers that essentially they're part of a bloodline that is very important to the Drukhari. They are a target. And so he's like, I'm going to use this fucking kid as bait. And they're like, okay. And it sets off this really, really interesting, well-paced story about him trying to Tangata Manu, his Space Marine boys, and this like slave mother and her child, plus a librarian who is kind of like watching over from the Carcharodons, librarian who's like kind of watching over, making sure that, because he doesn't like Tangata Manu, he thinks he's a fucking, he doesn't like him, he has a grudge against him, and he's kind of like staying on the mission to just make sure that everything is actually going according to what he's, keep everything on track and keep a watch over him, keep an eye on him. And the fucking character dynamics are great. Like, Tangata Manu is a really interesting guy. It's a very introspective style that Albert kind of writes in, because I felt there's a lot of parts of the book where I felt like he really communicated the sheer age of the main character, because Tangata has been alive for like thousands of years. He's been alive for thousands of years, and he's a space marine, so those 1,000 years have been fighting and meditation and like darkness and void. And there's like just these segments, I fucking love. There's this little detail where like he's in his their sleeping quarters are like prison cells basically that they've repurposed into quarters, and it's just like a mat that he just sleeps on, and there's a wall in his cell that he puts his hand on like once every like day cycle or whatever, and the wall, he's put his hand on it so many times that there's now like an imprint, like so many inches deep from just how many times he's touched it, just like how many days have gone by. And like these sequences of him meditating and thinking about like his life and his history, and just like the weight of this character, very like the fact that they're just floating around in just infinite nothingness, it's very like existential, and it's really neat. It's really cool. It's a very meditative kind of perspective on a space marine's life that you don't get super often from 40K, that I liked a lot. Second of all, so him interacting with some of the other characters is really fascinating. So like the mother has this whole arc. She's got this whole arc. Her son is basically like a feral child. So he doesn't really like say much, but she gets this whole arc that's really nice. I don't really want to talk about, but for spoilers, but she had a very satisfying like character development arc from like how she kind of starts off. And there's a fucking great character in this book. It's honestly worth reading the whole thing for him. There's a character who joins the story at some point who is a Drukhari. Now, if you don't know anything about the Drukhari, and this is why, I don't know, I feel like I've professed this several times, that 40K is not actually that hard to get into. So one of the things reasons that it's not too hard to get into is that like books like this, if you don't know who the Drukhari are, you'll know by the end. This is a wonderful introduction to the Drukhari. To give you a quick rundown, basically the Drukhari are the Dark Elves. They're the dark versions of a race called the Eldar, or the Eldari, depending on I don't think they can. I don't think they have the license to use the word Eldar anymore. Like someone owns the copyright or some fucking shit. So they say Eldari now, but everyone also just says Eldar. They're the Dark Eldar. The Eldar accidentally created an entire god of chaos, Slaanesh, because they were having too many psychic planet-wide blood orgies. And all of their psychic power ended up creating a god of chaos. Specifically, like, Slaanesh's lust and, like, lust, but really it's like he or she, depending on the writer or the perspective, the culture, how they identify Slaanesh. It's more like excess. It's like lust / really excess and like desire. So they're just like completely over desires. And Slaanesh wants the fucking Eldar souls. So she just like steals Eldar souls. So what they do is they keep their souls in these little things called soul stones. Take a shot for every time I say soul, to kind of like keep them safe and like separate from their bodies, sort of. They like wear it in them. I'm not totally up to snuff on Eldar lore, but basically they have to keep their souls in some kind of like external container so that she doesn't take them from their bodies. And if an Eldar ever dies, she gets their fucking soul and torments them for eternity. So they go to super hell. The Dark Eldar, the Drukhari, found out that, hey, Slaanesh doesn't take our souls if we just inflict intense emotions. And the one that they like inflicting the most is pain and misery and suffering. Excuse me. They fucking love hurting people. They're an entire, like, subspecies, like, subfaction of psychopathic masochists. Psychopathic masochists. That's pretty much what they are. They just like hurting people. So they're like almost de facto the most evil people in 40K, which is saying a lot because hell is a place in 40K. But they do it. The Drukhari do it knowingly. So they're like they don't have to hurt people. They just like it. They just enjoy it. And they come up with like excessively cruel ways to hurt people and torture them. They are the most abysmal people in the galaxy. So you get to see a lot of Drukhari culture. Because the goal is like they're trying to get to the Drukhari city of the central city of, how's it pronounced, Kamarak, something like that. And it's just in like a weird sort of like pocket dimension. It's strange. I'm not sure exactly where it is. It might just be like it's weird. It's like always night. It's basically a big fuck all misery carnival with like drugs and torture and fucking. It's like Hellraiser. It's like Hellraiser. There is a Drukhari character who joins the main cast at one point. That's as much as I'll say. But he is fucking delightful. He is amazing. His name is, oh goodness, what's his name? I can't remember his name. But he's great. He's like a poet. He's like a Drukhari. He's like a Drukhari poet, essentially. So all of the things, he looks at like inflicting suffering as an art form, and he's just so overly hammy and flashy, and he's always like trying to put on a show and be an entertainer, and it's just clashing with these super stoic, serious, no nonsense space marines who are just not having his shit. It's the best. It's so like he makes the book. A big part of the book, honestly. He's so entertaining, and he adds this great dynamic to the group. Slight spoilers, but he's like, honestly, the whole group dynamic is a big selling point, and it is a fast read. I finished it in like 4 sessions, 4 or 5 sessions, something like that. It's really good, and like most 40K stuff, no real theme, just really fun storytelling, and an exciting plot. So Yeah, Silent Hunters by Eduardo Albert. Pick it up. I would highly recommend it. It's just a little... Again, don't really have to know that much about 40k. Because also the Carcharodons are so isolated from everyone else that they don't even have... There's not a lot of like interrelations going on throughout the book between different factions. It's really just them and the Drukhari. And you will learn, you'll have a great introduction to what they're about. Second thing I wanted to mention, this is kind of random, but musician I recently discovered on YouTube, I wanted to just kind of give a quick shout out. You might say, oh, that's kind of weird, but this dude has, what's his channel at? Like, oh, someone's fucking outside my room right now. Wanted to, what's his channel at? Like less than 1,000 subscribers or something like that. 194 subscribers. His name is George L909. I just randomly got recommended a video, like a song by him. He just posts his music. He basically makes very, how would I describe it? It's like dark sounding. It's all synth music. It's really dark sounding. And, a lot of like heavy metal and sometimes jazz composition styles. So like types of rhythms and melodies, but all with a very dark sounding kind of synth instrumentation, all sorts of different synth and like electronic. He actually lists, I think, yeah, so what kind of instruments he uses. I think even in the title, like this one, Roland MC 101, Barber Beats and Doom Metal. He had a song called Black Sand Hex, Electron Syntact Industrial. Yeah, they're kind of like industrial is another good word I would use to describe his music. First one I got recommended by him was called Eldritch Concepts. George L. Eldritch Concepts, which is like, he describes it as jazz black metal. I would call it goth cowboy music. It's really fucking cool. I feel like I listen to his music and I totally picture like it being the soundtrack to like some kind of blood-inspired boomer shooter. Totally give him a listen. He also puts out like 3 songs every month. Really cool, and he's been making music for like the last year. Well, I'm just posting it at least. His oldest thing is from. Technically, it's one of those channels like, oh, he had a bunch of posts like 13, 12, 11 years ago, and then nothing until like 3 years ago, and then really started picking up, looks like, within the last year, where he's just been pumping out music, and it's all really cool sounding. So go check him out. I will link him down below. Just random music recommendation if that sounds at all interesting to you. All instrumental. So, let's see. 1 hour 23. I kind of want to, I don't know. I feel like that's good enough. I didn't have that much else to talk about. Thanks everyone for the thank you everyone for the support on the channel. Leave a comment down below if you discover this channel from this podcast, specifically from the most recent video I did. That would be fun to find out, like, what my reach is. What else? Yeah, I guess I'll just do the little wrap up thing I do. Yeah. What? If you've been listening this far, thank you for listening to me ramble. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below, but please leave it in the form of a question. I don't just want to read your thoughts out loud. Another video before the end of the month, plus a little bonus one that I'm looking to do. And yeah, main channel. Keep a watch out for that. Bye.